All right, all right. Hey, 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 you already know what it is and who it is. So I'm back again. So, of course, I wrote it down, so I'm just going to read it. So it goes on to say what the Lord was put in my heart. He said, remember when God made the promise to David that one of his own sons would build a place for God to dwell in, right? Which was Solomon. Once those words were spoken, the enemy went to work trying to come against it. First, David's son Solomon, and later his other son Adonijah, tried to take the promise for themselves. David was resting in his bed as an old man and still had to safeguard the promise. As he did so, shall we. So we have to do the same thing that David did. It is a battle. David had to target and to fight a lot of things in the natural head on. And then he had to fight against his own fleshly desires and learn from mistakes that he had done, not to play with God again, and to finally get to a point where he totally submitted unto God and allow the will of God to transform him, to create in him a clean heart and renew a right spirit within him. When he prayed from his heart, his mind, his soul, his spirit. Everything within him yearned for the will of God to come to pass. And that is how we are to be too. With most of us, it's the battle in our minds. Thoughts coming in that go against the very word God has spoken over our lives. And because the view we currently see and the natural does not add up with what God promised us, we give in to the negative thoughts. David had to battle for his promise all his life. So when he had gotten to be an old, frail man, even though he had heard what Adonijah was doing in the natural, what Adonijah had begun to go to work, and him and Joab teamed up together, and they began to, David's old, he's almost dead, right? I'm older than Solomon, so I'm next in line for king. And Joab pretty much egged Adonijah on into doing this. And he told him, he said, if there wasn't ever a time, he said, this is the time. Now this is the time for you to rise up and to take the kingdom. And he thought that because David was old, David wasn't going to be able to have enough strength to get up out that bed. But let me continue on. So Adonijah, David was aware of what Adonijah was doing in the natural. The Lord began to lay on my heart. And to show others that he was next to be king. So I just told you all how he went out and he began to do certain things. He threw like a little banquet or whatever, and made some sacrifices and had everybody sounding the alarm like he's king and all this here crap that he decided to do. David had to find strength to get up out of the bed. He was tired. And the Lord began to lay on my heart, some of us, we are weak right now because the battle that's coming against us is tough. But God is saying, get up, find strength to overcome, find strength to keep pushing forward. Even with what you see before, when what you see before you does not make sense. Say, just like David did. David had to find strength and get up out that bed. He was weak, frail, tired. Lord, I got to go make sure this is done correctly. He still had to battle up until his death before he closed his eyes. So David went on and he began to anoint Solomon as king, just as God had spoken. Adonijah's banquet quickly came to a stop, because the alarm God had laid on David's heart to have the people to sound an alarm so loud. The Bible speaks that it it caused the ground to shake because it was so strong when it hit, as they chanted and rejoiced at the thought of Solomon now being king. So before David closed his eyes, he began to speak to his son Solomon about deception. David knew that Joab wasn't no good, but let's not forget the fact that Joab got together. David had Joab to make that sacrifice for him. Remember with Uriah, he asked Joab to put Uriah out on the front where it was going to get hit the hardest, and he asked Joab to pull back so that Uriah would be struck down and killed. So a lot of guilt still followed David because of how he handled that situation. So he began to overlook what Joab was doing in a lot of scenarios. Now, he didn't overlook the fact when Joab's brother, I can't think of his name right now, but Joab's brother was struck down. So Joab got even with the guy who killed his brother, and he killed him. And this man had just finished talking to David, and he had just made peace with David, and David sent him away in peace. And on the way of being sent away, Joab and another brother of his discovered that the man that killed their brother had just been sent away by David in peace. And they go and decide to kill him. So David said, y'all did that. I don't want the blood on Israel and on Judah. Let that blood fall on y'all own heads, because y'all did that in deceit and in deception. So when David got old, right before his death, he began to speak to his son Solomon about the deception that was going to transpire. And he let him know, I have already given Joab all of the chances I have. I can't take it no more. If he does not handle this right, kill him. And he said the same thing for his own son Adonijah, because David had it up to here. Okay, you gonna join together with him? You're going to join together with Joab, and you know what Joab has been doing in secret, all of the evilness that has been transpiring with him. You going to double team with him, son? Okay, well, so when I take him out, it'll be done with you as well. Solomon, having the heart of love like his daddy did, he tried to give his brother, and Joab even, another opportunity to do the right thing. The brother, Adonijah, still didn't learn his lesson. He thought he could outsmart Solomon. But see, Solomon had already received knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Solomon was to a point where he craved that more so.